Okay, folks, that was our brief introduction. Now we're going to look at the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence, and the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and how they kind of work together. And we're going to concentrate basically on the Second Amendment and First Amendment. So, Tyler, what do you think about the Second Amendment, First Amendment type of thing?
Well, I think I'm more conservative than most of the conservatives out there that say that they're protecting the Second Amendment, right? In the fact that I don't see a problem with having any automatic weapons or high caliber weapons. I mean, back during the seafaring days, sailors would ask, "Oh, what's up with the cannons?" And I can't remember the person who said it. I want to say Thomas Jefferson, but he's like, "It's arms, and we have the right to bear them." And it was for the sailor's safety. And I mean, if cannons protected under the Second Amendment, right, then I don't see why everyone's making a big deal about military grade weapons, because that was military grade weapons back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we need to come to a realization what the Second Amendment actually is all about. It's because it's not about hunting, it's not about collecting, but it's about what it says it's about. You know, a well-regulated militia being necessary and all, the right of people to bear arms shall not be infringed, and it's about tyranny in the government. And where are we heading? I mean, it looks more obvious as days go by, and people keep talking more and more where they want to bring this country to. And really, this is no time to be fooling around with what the Second Amendment was created for. Maybe it's time to actually bring forth what the Second Amendment was made for. And we'll leave that open for some discussion. And do you want to try to tie this into the First Amendment?
Well, I believe I can. I was just listening to a podcast. I think it was Lions of Liberty, where they were having a discussion about the freedom of speech, and they were talking about how this alt-right group got a license to publicly speak, and how that was basically like hiring the government for protection. And they basically spent $50 for thousands of dollars worth of public goods in the form of protection from the government. And I think you have the right to speak your mind. Sometimes that might not go over well with a third party, but the way it ties in with the Second Amendment is that third party going to try and take you off of your soapbox, or try and stop you from speaking your mind physically? And if they try to, you do have the right to protect yourself in the form of the Second Amendment. I don't think that you should have to go and get a license to speak your mind, because that doesn't sound like the freedom of speech. But it's also you're also hiring the government to protect you, which I also don't think the government's there to protect you per se. The government law enforcement isn't there to stop crimes. They're kind of, but it's like just the fact that they are there, kind of like the fact that someone might have a weapon, is it puts an incentive on people to act, to not act rashly, and to respect one another's ideas. It's a negative incentive in the fact that, like, you're not actively doing anything other than carrying your protection or speaking out. Like, a positive incentive would be like the cops being out in force and actively stopping people before going into a free speech zone, which I don't even know what that would is. It's a oxymoron
Yeah.
type word, but I think the right to bear arms helps enforce your right to speak, and
Yeah, I have to agree with that the Second Amendment is the enforcement tool that we have to ensure our other rights don't get infringed.
yes,
And one of the infringements I think occurs in the First Amendment. Well, let's just start off with the very first sentence. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment or religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We hear a lot of the first part of that there be no law respecting an establishment of religion, but what about the prohibiting of the free exercise thereof?
yeah,
You know, that's part of it too, and that never gets brought up. You know, we're told you can't have religion here, you can't have it there, you can't have it there. Oh yeah, well, the Article 1 says you shall not prohibit the free exercise thereof.
yep,
Now, if that was abided, you would have both sides of this discussion available. And I'll just bring up I'll bring up in the discussion of secular humanism first, an evolution type of thing versus creationism.
okay,
All right, you can't have this one in the school, but you can have this one. Although, you know what, you can actually have both. All right, they just tell you can't have the other one, but that's not true. So what they've tried to do away with was the second side of the argument. And what that becomes is indoctrination.
mm-hmm.
If you only hear one side of the argument and you can't hear the other side, that's indoctrination into the first side. So along with that, there's other things that have been occurring that the I call them the secular humanistic progressive socialists are pushing. And their whole argument is based on shutting up the other side so that you can't hear both sides of the story. And that's the problem, I think, in this country right now, is that's the main problem, that we are not encouraged to, we're not allowed to, somehow we're looked down upon if we bring up different views. And that's vital. And if we freely bring up all the views, then we can have a discussion. If not, there is no discussion to be had. So people talk about if you take away the Second Amendment, the rest of them are gone, and we can already see that they're working on Article 1. And sure enough, you take away the Second Amendment, ain't no muscle behind the protection of the other ones. Okay, we can hit pause here for a minute.